And welcome back to another Medtech Snapshot. Today we have joining us Terry Vick. Terry is the Director of Program Management over at Shockwave up in the Bay Area. So Terry, looking forward to chatting with you in particular about scope creep, which is something we've all dealt with, right? So I'm curious from your end, leading program management, how do you actually manage upfront the project and the body of work in order to avoid project delays on the back end?
Great, thanks, Travis. Great to get the opportunity to talk to you. Great question. I mean, it's something that I think all projects and project managers or program managers have to deal with. And I think just naturally there's a tendency for project leaders and project teams to want to jump into doing work. Right? We want to get into the work and kind of get on and move the business forward. I think one of the things I've learned, and I would kind of stress this to anybody, whether you're new to program management or whether you've been in the industry for years like me, is to just really do the diligence on the scope of the program up front. Mm-hmm. And that might sound like a very basic thing to do, but I think it's probably one of the most underestimated and potentially one of the most dangerous things for schedule compliance. So I think the recommendation would be, as you go through it with your project teams, kind of just build up the scope, understand the relationship with the business needs and then the different functions involved in your project. Build it up at a team level. Make sure you consult your stakeholders and make sure you get a project sponsor within the organization to kind of use as a sounding board for scope. And then, it's not just a one and done process, right? Review it again. Take that extra time just to understand whether the scope is clear. And then as you go through your governance processes, right? So if you're kicking off the program or you're changing phase, make sure that, that's what you spend the majority of your time reviewing, which is kind of like your scope statement. And I think one of the things I'd encourage people to do, and what I've seen work well, is, don't rush to build up the schedule. I know that, again, there's always a tendency that, that's the most important thing you can do is to build up the schedule, but get the scope right, then build the schedule up. And then go from there. And every time you review these things, just start with the scope, because scope's going to change. It's going to tweak a little bit as you go through, right? And sometimes, keeping the scope kind of clear and consistent is great, but sometimes there are reasons why you need to change scope, right? So there's things where you need to go into schedule changes with your eyes wide open and make sure you've got your your team and your stakeholders behind you as you go through managing programs. So I guess my final conclusion is just keep thinking of scope and keep thinking of making sure it's clear to everybody in the organization. And as a program manager, that's probably your number one kind of thing you can do is just be the maintainer of the scope of the program.